Good morning, Delaware. Welcome back to the Off the Shelf. We are delighted to have you here today. And as Elwood Blues would say, we are getting the band back together.
We're back. He's back.
Hey, Nicole. Welcome back.
Hey, how's it going?
Not bad at all.
We're both here, and I'm about, 90% healthy.
I'd say I'm probably at that rate, too. Yeah, just about. And fortunately,
Molly's coming in at 100.
I'm perfectly healthy.
Yeah.
And I was ready to take over again if I needed.
You make up for it by having a sickly husband.
He is not sickly. Man cold is not sickly.
I invited Molly back this week just to yell at George and I for abandoning her.
Yeah.
I don't know.
But I have to say, I have a new respect for both of you. The timing to make this show run as smoothly as it does, that's an art.
Well, thank you.
Mm-hmm. You know?
You can keep saying nice things about us.
It really is, because, I would just get there. And also interviewing, there was one point last week where, if you've seen that SNL skit with Chris Farley, where he's interviewing famous TV stars, and he starts talking about, remember that movie you were in? Remember that time you did this thing? And remember it?
Hey.
And all the star can say is, yeah. I was totally caught myself halfway into that last week.
Hey, William Kent Kruger, you wrote a really good book, and you remember that?
Remember those kids characters you wrote? Those were really good.
Yeah.
Remember that?
Yeah.
I thought you and Karen did a good job last week. I
Thank
was
you,
listening in
George.
Buffalo, and thank you for having WDLR available on the web. That makes it so much easier to keep track of what my staff is doing.
Yeah. I was not listening in Las Vegas because that would have been about
7 in the
6
morning.
a.m.
6 a.m.
Yeah.
Were they
I'm
Pacific
disappointed in you.
I was not. Although I never really got off of East Coast time. I never really quite migrated to Pacific time, and so yeah, it was 8 o'clock, and we were like, I think we're ready for bed. We were not the prime Vegas people.
Well, anyway, so we're back. Did you get a lot of reading done while you were in Vegas?
No. But I did have flights. It's a long flight. It was a direct flight, but I got some listening done and some reading. I had my book, I had my audio book, I had all the good stuff. So, actually what I have been plowing through, and I am right at the climax. I am right at the twist, the turn. Everyone's a suspect, It's that moment.
Yes.
It's the book called The Maidens, and this is by Alex Michaelides, and he wrote The Silent Patient, which I have talked about before. Alex Michaelides, his history is he was a screenwriter, and then he decided to get into novels, and the characters that he tends to have as his protagonists are therapists, or it's all English, so psychotherapists. And what he also does is there's usually, from the point of view of the therapist, they usually take an inappropriate interest in a murder case, and then they try to solve it, at the, dismay of the local investigators. And so the investigators are like, stay off my case. And they're like, no, but I'm a psychotherapist. I know everything. I can obviously...
And that doesn't go over well with the police.
No,
huh?
yeah. And they're like, I could obviously solve this. And so then it gets into some unreliable narrator positions. So basically the idea of The Maidens is we have a woman Mariana Andros, and she runs a group therapy sessions out of her home. She's very good. That's her prime way of reaching patients, is doing group therapy. And so she gets a call one day from her niece, who is a student at Cambridge, and her niece says that her roommate has been murdered. And so she goes to Cambridge to comfort her niece, and then meanwhile realizes that the murder is not going to be an open and shut case. And so she sees a colleague who is a forensic psychotherapist, and so she kind of buddies up with him to see, maybe I can solve this. Then her niece is feeding her information that she feels like the police aren't getting. So of course then she goes on the track to try and solve this murder. All in the background, there's a lot of Greek mythology, Greek history, and Greek writings in the background, because the prime suspect is Edward Fosca. I have to say it in the British accent of which I'm listening. But so Edward Fosca is the chair of the kind of Greek writings department. I don't know, whatever department that would be.
Antiquities.
Antiquities. And he basically, he is very good orator, and people really love taking his classes. But he tends to draw the very young, beautiful Cambridge students, female especially, to him. And then he has private tutorial groups with him. And he happens to call them, in very Greek tragic style, his maidens. And the woman who was murdered on campus happens to be one of his maidens. So, of course, he's a prime suspect, and he has Mariana's eye, as far as he's obviously the one who's done it. Soon after, a second maiden is come up dead, and so it just seems like each one of the maidens of his group are going out for sacrifice. It's a very good book. I'm riveted by it. It's very moving, very fast paced, and I'm really liking everything that Mr. Michaelides is putting out. So this one is called The Maidens.
Sounds good.
Excellent.
Molly, what have you been reading or listening to?
I have been reading a graphic novel. I've been reading George Takay's They Called Us Enemy.
Great book.
It has been on my to-read list for years, and I finally was like, this is for me. If you haven't heard of this book, it's a must-read. It is George's story of being a child and his family's journey to the Japanese internment camps during World War II. So much of this, it's told in his eyes as a child. So, there are parts of it you're reading along, and he's talking about the joy. His father, became a leader in the camp, and they got a Jeep, and they drove, miles and miles, but also just the sorrow. I mean, when the book opens, and you just see his mother and his father packing them up to leave, and the emotion that comes through it. And most of the book is the story of being in the camps, moving from camps, what the experience was like, not knowing what was coming. But the end of the book really hit me too, because it's how it affected everyone for the rest of their lives. People who would talk about it, people who wouldn't talk about it. And the one that hit me the most, George was doing some campaigning. And while he was in the office, he was there with his father, but his father left right before someone showed up. And it was Eleanor Roosevelt, which, if you know me, is one of my biggest idols. But his father could not shake the hand of the woman whose husband put his family in the camps. And I had to think through, history has so many sides, and the importance of sort of balancing. I use statements from Eleanor Roosevelt every day as I go through my life. Find one thing every day, that you're afraid of. Go forward, And to really kind of realize that sight in history and everybody is flawed. Everybody has things. And George just brought this full story around of how he succeeded from that, but then he wanted it to be known. So my next goal is to go to his musical next time I see a chance to go. So
I think that actually may be on one of the streaming services.
Really?
Ooh.
Yeah, I think so.
I'm going to have to go check that out.
We'll have to find
I
that.
saw that, yeah.
Yeah.
It might be Broadway HD, but I know I've seen it on one of them.
Oh, I hope it has him in it too. So I know there was one version.
Had him as the narrator, yeah.
Okay, excellent.
Yeah. So, great.
Yeah.
So, again, the title?
They Called Us Enemy by George Takay.
Right.
I have to stop and think, okay.
I know, because I always want to say
Takay.
Takay.
Yeah, he
I
says
know.
that in the book, though. He
Yes.
says it rhymes with okay. And
Oh,
so
I like
I'm
that.
like, as long as I slow down and say it, I'll get it right.
So I've been listening to a lot of William Kent Kruger and now a lot of Sarah Vowell, and I don't want to talk about that right now because I'm going to talk about Sarah Vowell next week, and I'll talk a little bit about what happened with William Kent Kruger in next week's show. So this week we've been having a fun thing at the library where we've been getting ready to restart our Reader's Advisory program.
Yes.
And so Katie Height put out a request to the staff, tell me what you're reading. And man, the responses have been wonderful. And I'm going to quote from some of them. I'm not going to say who wrote them because I did not get their permission to quote them here. But they're just some really interesting things that you might be interested in reading. So one of our youth services librarian wrote, I just finished Secret Identity by Alex Segura. It's the first adult book I've successfully finished in a while, so I get some points just for that. I did enjoy the first half better than the conclusion, though. It's about a young woman working in the comic book industry in the 1970s who ghostwrites with a coworker who winds up murdered.
Oh.
Ooh.
That's a great little,
A little-
book
Yeah.
talk right there in 6 lines.
I'm already thinking that's road trip for Lloyd and I.
Yep. Another person wrote, I'm nearing the end of Record of a Spaceborne Feud, the third in a loosely related series by Becky Chambers. Chambers' novels were just what I needed at the time, a rollicking space adventure wrapped up around a core of kindness, inclusion, and gentle humor. Spaceborne isn't as fast-paced as its predecessors, but retains their values and provides some answers about the larger Wayfarers universe. This series will likely appeal to Star Trek fans, and yes, that includes me. I like this one. Short and to the point. I just finished Falling by T.J. Newman on Libby, and I'd give it a solid meh.
Yeah. That's along the lines of our poet from a couple weeks ago. Rain, 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 rain.
Sam.
Yes.
Another youth services librarian wrote about The Lost Apothecary by Sarah Penner. In 1791, a female apothecary, Nella, dispenses poisons to other women who have been wronged by the men in their lives. It's all done very discreetly so as not to be traced back to Nella or her secret shop. When her youngest patron, 12-year-old Eliza, enters her shop, Nella is in for more than just another sale. The two form a partnership of sorts as Eliza wants to become Nella's apprentice.
Ooh.
Nella's health is failing due to what she believes is her punishment for using her apothecary skills for evil, and hesitantly allows Eliza into her shop.
That's one of the titles that we have on Hoopla, and I'm like, okay, as soon as I'm done with the next one and I have like a reading gap, I'm ready. And you can get it anytime on Hoopla.
Another librarian wrote, this is my Goodreads review for Planet Omar, Accidental Trouble Magnet. I really enjoyed this title. The protagonist reminds me of my own son, a young middle grade chapter book with multiple doodles, drawings, and different font types. The inconsistent font type threw me off for a bit, but I know younger children enjoy it and it helps break up the text. I suggest reading along with a child and going over terms if the child is reading is unfamiliar with the Islamic religion and the Ramadan holiday. I'm currently reading Beach Wedding by Michaelides. Wealth, beaches, and murder. That's how she writes it out.
Could it be murder?
It has short, fast-paced chapters, which is super helpful with my also short, fast-paced children.
Yes. That's what I love. Short chapters that just keep me wanting to go to the next one.
Right.
Yes. Get through.
Another librarian wrote, last night I stayed up past my bedtime to finish The Last Laugh by Mindy McGinnis.
Oh, no. No spoilers.
There's no spoiler in here. This is the second in her duology, inspired by the works of Edgar Allan Poe, the first being The Initial Insult. McGinnis and Poe together are a perfect match, very dark and twisty. Do not read if you are bothered by graphic descriptions of injuries and or death. Do read if you like strong female characters who are morally ambiguous.
Yes. That will probably be my review next week because that was the one that I was reading physically on the plane.
I'm going to do that as soon as I finish doing our visiting authors.
Yes.
I've got a lot to catch up on.
Yeah.
I'm way behind in trying to get through my Louise Penny books, and so I'm looking forward to having a little break after Sarah. My last one I wanted to quote from, just to show how broad our interests are among library staff. This person wrote, I've been slowly working through Douglas T. Price's Europe Before Rome, a site-by-site tour of the Stone, Bronze, and Iron Ages.
This is very different.
Most interesting to me is the section on the Doggerland finds from the North Sea, which has become an area of fascination for me. How many people do you know who are fascinated by the Doggerlands area around the North Sea?
I don't know where that is. I don't
I
know.
wish I knew more.
And the reason this
I know who
person
to
is
ask.
interested in it is because he is writing his own book that's set in that area.
I love librarians.
I know.
do
These are
too.
all so well written and so wonderful.
So the point is, if you are a reader who is just not sure what to read next, that's what we're here for. You know, reader's advisory is a big thing that they teach us in library school. And whether you're, trying to find that new first chapter book for your little one, or whether you've read everything by Louise Penny and you want another mystery writer who's set in Canada or who works with the Sûreté or deals with multiple languages, whatever, we can help you with that.
It's
And
one of the most enjoyable parts of our job, so please don't look at us and think, oh, they're too busy or I don't want to bother them. That would make all of us cry if we knew you were doing that, because this is what we want to be doing, is helping you find your next great read.
I will let you in on something that every staff member in the library would rather talk to you about what they're reading and help you find something than to have to fill out another report for me.
Yes, they would, me
So.
included.
I'm going to just shade my eyes here.
So we're going to take a break here, and when we come back, we're going to talk about our new mascot, Percy, who is the cover boy on Check It Out this quarter. and who is also going to be making one of his first public appearances very shortly. So
This is
stay
early.
tuned.
I've seen snow in October, and then we just had snow on April 17th or whatever that was. So
Yeah.
that's too long. It's not fair.
Ohio can't even decide what season it's in.
No.
I feel like we almost skip spring most years.
No, and there's a funny meme that's like, when you have that first nice day in Ohio, it's like,
Yeah.
don't be fooled, Ohio. This is fall spring number 1. Then we're gonna go to winter resurgence number 2. Then we're gonna go to fall spring number 2.
We're almost to Mother's Day, though, so you can almost plant.
I've reminded people that it has snowed in April before, and everyone
Yes.
looked at me like, you're crazy.
Oh,
I'm
no.
like,
Yeah.
No.
Ohio's like a drunk that should actually go home and sleep it off. The way it's staggering around. So
Speaking of all the Midwestern love in Ohio, Molly, you've got a fun thing you're doing tonight.
I have the best thing tonight. My husband and I are going to see Charlie Berens. You may know him from the Manitowoc Minute or just scrolling for Midwestern humor on the Facebook, internet, YouTube, Twitter, all those things.
One of our
not very
guests has
good at.
talked about him before with the Midwestern goodbye, and also the many uses of ope.
Or the Midwestern neighborliness, where
Yes.
you like get so into each other's business to try to help. Like my neighbors one neighbor came in and tilled our garden. Another neighbor came in and put fertilizer down. Another neighbor came in and put plants there. Another neighbor came and put them in.
Who's gonna water him?
Well, they kept an eye on us, and when we didn't, it would be whichever one of them noticed they needed watered. And then if we were really lazy and didn't get them to our back porch, they would carry them there. Now, there was lots, I want to say, we did a lot for our neighbors, too. We were a family on 2nd Avenue.
they weren't
But-
neighborly. They just didn't want to see the dandelions in your yard.
It's true, right? Maybe Midwestern kindness is just like backhandedness,
Self-protection.
It
Yeah.
really is. It's sort of like one-upping, too, like who
Right.
has what tool,
Yeah.
you know?
Could we kind of talk about the library again for a minute?
Well, we have a
Yes.
tie-in. He has a book.
Oh,
that
okay.
we
Well,
have
there you
access to, The Midwest Survival Guide by Charlie Berens. And the subtitle is the best: How We Talk, Love, Work, Drink, and Eat Everything with Ranch. Which is so true.
It's true. See, we know how to bring it back in, George.
I know, this is
I
library.
guess I'm out of practice. And how do you spell Berens? Because there's a lot of ways you can spell that last name.
It is Berens.
Yeah, see?
I did that
would've
like a
been the one I
spelling
would've
bee.
guessed.
The
Yep.
most basic.
So-
Yes.
All right. So tomorrow we got a big party coming up at the Ostrander Branch Library. Fortunately, it's not at the Delaware Library with the traffic that we're going to have tomorrow because of the rally.
Yes.
But it's at the Ostrander Branch at 2 o'clock. Who are we going to meet at this new party?
We're gonna meet Percival, or Percy for short. He is our new mascot, our unicorn. And I was gonna play a little funny, and I was gonna say, and we have Percy here today. Say hi, Percy. But Percy doesn't talk.
Well, then he's
No.
not much use on radio.
No.
No.
Yeah, so I didn't think it would be
Mascots,
as good to.
mascots never speak.
That's right. Mm-hmm. Yeah, so we have the unicorn party tomorrow at the Ostrander Branch Library, and it is going to be fun.
So much fun.
Not only do we have Percival making like kind of his biggest first public appearance. He will be available for pictures, meet and greets, just all wonderful things unicorn. But then we also have mini unicorns coming
excited for
and
mini
visiting.
unicorns.
Now, I don't want to break the facade of the magic, but they're mini ponies. They're mini horses, or I forget
You
what
should have said, parents, if you have children nearby, put your hands over their ears
Well,
for
I
a
said
second.
I don't want to break the magic. I mean, and yeah, but so just don't worry about it. But I mean, so really, if you
By
like live,
tomorrow, they'll have forgotten anyway.
if you like live animals,
I
we're
won't
gonna
have.
have
kids.
live animals.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's going to be a whole lot of fun.
Yes.
There's a local woman who brings her miniature ponies around, and it's just going to be really, really delightful. Of course, there are other activities as well. There are going to be crafts, which what library program would be a library program without crafts? And so things like you're going to be able to make your own horn, decorate it. You're going to be able to, I think there's going to be a ring toss with horns involved.
We're not going to actually throw them at Percy, are we?
I don't think that would, well, it would be really hard. He's tall.
Yeah,
We're
that's true.
welcoming
He's a very
Percy.
tall, yeah.
So
Yeah, we don't want to throw
we want him
anything
to
at
come back.
Okay, that's true. That's true.
Exactly. Yeah. So there's just going to be like rainbows, sparkles, unicorns, all that kind of stuff. And it's a drop-in program. So it goes from 2 to 3:30, but you don't need to feel the need that you have to be there like right at 2 on the dot, because
I
the
love those programs.
fun and activities are going to be happening for the whole 90 minutes.
That sounds like a lot of fun. Now, is pre-registration or anything required for this?
Nope, nothing's required for this. It's really just to show up and have fun. I was looking up. I was trying to give credit to the woman who's bringing the horses, and
So excited.
it's River Hill Farm. So thank you, River Hill Farm, for bringing your unicorns to our wonderful party. And yeah, it's just going to be wonderful.
That's great.
The
And
Ostrander branch.
That's at the Ostrander branch. And if you need directions or anything, there's a map how to find it on our website,
Yeah.
DelawareLibrary.org. And or you can just GPS it. You'll find us.
And if you have if you have wonderful unicorn powers like Percy does, you'll just poof and you'll just be there.
Yes, absolutely.
That's a neat trick.
Yes.
So
He'll use his portal.
Portal.
also tomorrow at Orange, we've got a really interesting nationwide traveling exhibition on a feast of Darshana, which is a Hindu feast. And festival rather, and we are looking forward to showing those traveling posters
I'm
at
really
the Orange
looking
branch.
forward to that. Yeah.
So that should be fun too. So busy day at the library tomorrow.
It is going to be a fun one, yeah. And like we said, Delaware is just going to be crazy. So go ahead and hang out on 36, 37 and
Yes.
make your way west to Ostrander or make your way south on 23 to Orange.
Right. So and you'll have a lot of fun because that's what the library is all about.
That is what the library is all about.
And speaking of a lot of fun, we've got a lot of book clubs and stuff coming up this week.
We sure do.
Yes.
We've got a couple of libraries are doing William Kent Kruger books, of course. Harlow's Book Club at Ostrander on, that is on Tuesday, is doing Iron Lake, which is one of the early books.
Is that the
featuring
first?
I believe so,
I believe that is the first, yeah.
Yes. And then Carrie's Book Club at Powell, also on Tuesday, is doing This Tender Land by William Kent Kruger, so as is Pam's Book Club. So Tuesday is a day of a lot of William Kent Kruger books.
But you know what
they're
I'm
so good.
you
Yes,
know what
they
I'm
are.
most excited for?
What are you most excited
We're
for?
going to be hearing a really special noise probably around Wednesday and Thursday
Yeah.
that's going peep, 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 peep. Oh, my goodness. So
Love the babies.
we have the eggs at the Delaware Main Library right now, and they are from our friends at Bring the Farm to You. They bring us 8 eggs, and they sit in their little incubator, and we have it right in front of the children's desk. And they also have a really cool display that is
Yes.
they look like just a store thing of eggs, and they're plastic. You open them up, and it tells you what day of development the egg is at, and what that bird would look like inside the egg at that day of development.
It's such cute STEAM learning. I love when STEAM learning is just cute.
Yeah, it's adorable. So on Wednesday and Thursday is when we expect them to hatch, and they pretty much work like clockwork. So on Wednesday and Thursday, we're going to see some of those little peepers
And if
pecking
you've
through.
never seen a chicken hatch, it is. My friends
It's
back home
beautiful.
would be making fun of me because
Yeah.
a lot of my friends lived on farms. But it is just this cool
Mm-hmm.
experience to watch them work their way out of those eggs. And yeah, every day.
And the interesting thing to me is whenever you see birds hatch, it really reminds you of their roots as dinosaurs.
Right.
Because they look really
Jurassic,
prehistoric.
yeah.
Until
Exactly.
they start getting some feathers on them and start to look bird-like. They really do look like something out. Yeah, Jurassic is a good word.
I love coming back and watching them fluff up too.
Yeah.
Like they
Yes.
start and they like half fluff before they're all the way there. It is so much fun watching every stage of this.
There's also they've got the staff have of course have fun with it, and there is a contest right now, and I think you can vote until the eggs start hatching on what you want the chicks to be named, because they have a series that you can choose from. So I'd like to know your opinions. We have series number 1 of names would be the Eggvengers, and so we would name them things like Loki, Spider-Man, Scarlet Witch, Thor, Black Panther, Iron Man, and Captain Marvel. So those are the Eggvengers. We could also have option number 2 is the Cluck Wars, and so we would have Hen Solo, Cluck Vader, Sky Clucker, Boba Peck, Princess Leia
man.
Egg, Jabba the Chicken, and Jabba the Chicken Hut, and a Storm Cooper. I'm not sure. Oh, like a coop, like a
Like
a
chicken
right.
coop. I was like, why is a coop? A Storm Cooper, yes. So those are the Cluck Wars. That's number 2. And then your third option, which I am, of course, partial to, is the Henrigals, like the family Madrigal, which
yes.
would be like from Encanto. So you'd have Antonio, Dolores, Camila, Mirabel, Isabella, Luisa, and Bruno.
We don't talk about
We
Bruno.
don't talk about Bruno. So what would you vote for? The Eggvengers, Cluck Wars, or the Henrigals?
Ooh,
I like the hut one.
Yeah, I know,
do
right?
too. Yeah, I like Cluck Wars.
Man, you're making me choose between two of my favorite.
But
Yeah.
Encanto's kind of fun too.
It really is.
So, but we can't talk about Bruno.
We can't
Yeah.
talk about Bruno.
And also the Egg Vengers, because those chickens come out and they're not all yellow. There's a black one, there's like a speckled one.
Because they're all
so-
different breeds.
Exactly. So, the
Well, and I like the idea that they're going to save the world. So
Yeah.
just in case we need them, we'll have them.
right.
So maybe we should go with that, just, in case.
And then, of course, once they hatch on Wednesday and Thursday, then we move them out of the incubator into a thing, and then they hang out and peep around for a while.
I think it's going to be a lot of fun. So make sure you stop by and see the eggs as they start to hatch.
Yes.
So I wanted, before we sign off, thank the Friends of the Library for sponsoring the show and for the visit for William Kent Kruger coming up this week. And I want to mention, too, that next Sunday, not this coming Sunday, but Sunday, May 1st, the Friends of the Library will be at the Powell Street Market with a bargain book sale. Specifically, I think it's specifically going to be kids' books.
Yes, I do believe
Street
so.
So make sure you check that out on Sunday, May 1st with our friends from the Powell Chamber of Commerce. And Molly, thank you for being here. Thank you
Always
for sitting in
happy
last
to.
week for both of us. Appreciate it. And as always, Nicole, a pleasure.
Glad to be back.
Gage, tell us great work behind the board, and we will see you in the stacks.